I wish you luck in realizing your ambition.
Hey everyone, it's BlueLizardJello and welcome back to Everything Possible in Elden Ring here at the Church of Pilgrimage in the Weeping Peninsula. Last time, well, we actually accomplished quite a bit. We took out our first demi-human queen. We also fought another rune bear, much to my dismay. We got a really cool weapon in the hand ballista, and then we made our way up here to the church where we heard some more words from Melina. One thing that I didn't talk about though is that this statue right behind us, unlike some of the other churches that we have visited, or at least the one other one, is that this does not represent Queen Marika, rather this represents Radagon. And we're going to talk a lot about Marika and Radagon as we go, but just wanted to make sure that we called that out. Now today we do have a few things on our task list to accomplish, but first, of course, let's take a look at my stats. Level 29, if you want to see it for any longer, pause the video now. As for the gear, I am using the Great Épée with the repeating thrust skill, the short sword which has been imbued with magic due to the Gravitas skill, club with the barbaric roar, blue gold kite shield with no skill, the finger seal. For armor, I have the bandit mask, old aristocrat gown, foot soldier gauntlets, and the aristocrat boots. Dragon Crest shield talisman for that physical damage negation. Of course, I have my flask, and I have gravity stone fan and gravity stone chunks. I am going to be putting a couple other items on my hotbar as we go through our little adventure today. But before we actually do that, I do have some housekeeping, and that is, first off, I'm going to be traveling to the Round Table Hold. When I bring up my map, one thing that I've been doing a lot of is simply navigating over to the Sites of Grace manually just by traveling over the map itself. But according to the list in the bottom left, you can pull up a listing of the Sites of Grace by hitting triangle, at least on my controller. And then you can use the bumper keys in order to navigate. There's Round Table Hold, here's Limgrave, here's Caelid. So far, those are the only locations that we have Sites of Grace in, but there's also a shortcut to go to the Round Table Hold. Once you pull this list up, notice at the bottom square says go to Round Table Hold, and we can do exactly that just to save ourselves a couple of steps. The first thing that I want to do is I want to level up 2 times, but I'm also going to be purchasing an incantation from D in just a little bit. So in order to do that, I am going to use some runes. Now I've actually already done the math, and I believe I require 23 of these golden rune level 1s in order to get exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to use the bumper to go up by 10 apiece, and then just simply up on the D-pad to go to 23, consume all of those. Bring me up to just over 14,500. I'm going to talk to D here, and I'm going to purchase the Order's Blade. It requires 13 intelligence and 13 faith. We'll be using this against a particular boss here, well, and some small enemies in a little bit. Now let's rest at the Table of Lost Grace and level up. And if I did this right, I have just enough in order to get 1 point into each, which allows us to use that spell. Now, of course, let's go ahead and memorize that. And now I'll show you what I have for my incantations. I have Heal, Catch Flame, Flame of Frenzy, and Order's Blade. But Blue, the Flame of Frenzy, this requires 16 faith. You only just leveled up to 13. What gives? Well, because of the Flask of Wondrous Physic and the Faith Not Crystal tier, this will give me 3 minutes of plus 10 faith. Then I can then cast other incantations I normally couldn't, such as the Flame of Frenzy, and there's a particular boss I'd like to use this on to show just how effective it can be, even if it is a bit slow. Right, now, let's head back to the Weeping Peninsula, specifically the Church of Pilgrimage. And right in the back, actually just by the statue of Radagon, right around these pillars, we do have a number of new crafting items. These are golden centipedes. So let's go ahead and make sure we grab all these. We'll take a look at that description. The golden desiccated remains of a centipede, kept as a fetish by Golden Order fundamentalists, especially the hunters of those who live in death. Now, golden centipedes are used to craft 2 separate items: rejuvenating boluses, which remove death blight buildup. Now, that's a status effect we have talked about. I should have talked about it back when we fought the first death bird in Northern Limgrave, but we have another one that we'll be fighting here in the Weeping Peninsula, and I'll be sure that I address that at that time. And then there's also the Sacred Order pots, but those require ritual pots, something we haven't come upon just yet. Next, before we actually go on our intended route, which is going to be heading south towards the mine as well as the minor Erd tree, we're going to be heading out here. Now, one thing that I want to mention is this view that you have over this way, specifically right over here by this broken pillar. We're not doing anything with it yet, but just remember this view. You have the broken archways, you have the waterfall, we have the large statue over the building that we exited in the tutorial, and just keep this in mind. Now down below here, however, you will see that there is a platform down there, and we're going to get on Torrent, and we're going to make our way down here. You can take a safer route just over to the east a little bit, but for me, I will just use Torrent's double jump ability to hopefully not take too much damage. So what I'll do is just drop and then jump to try and catch a ledge, just like I did. Perfect. We don't want to fall down. We're just going to follow this path here. There are some small land octopus, so if you want to try and farm for the helm, you absolutely could here. There's not too many of them. Might as well, though. Give it a shot. I'm going to switch over to my short sword because we do have some man beasts. We're going to hop down here and immediately Doom Stomp them. Do a little bit of execution after the gravitas. I know I have one more. He's right here. Let's wait for him to come to us. There we have it. Gravitas is just so useful against them. And we have two corpses here. One of which has a sliver of meat, but more importantly, one has a brand new item to us, a bewitching branch. Tree branch blessed with an incantation of unalloyed gold. We're going to hear the term unalloyed several times throughout this playthrough. The Empyrean Mikola is loved by many people. Indeed, he has learned very well how to compel such affection. And this item especially, along with the recipe book that you find sometime later that allows you to craft this item, that makes people believe, myself included, that Mikola is also Saint Trina, the one that's responsible for all of those sleeping items like the Saint Trina's arrows that we have crafted before. We'll talk more about that when we get the recipe book, but this specific branch, it does cost 14 FP to use, but against certain enemies, you can use this against them and it will turn them into a temporary ally. There is a particular boss fight that this works incredibly well against, and I will for sure show that off when we get there. It's going to be some time, and if you do manage to charm an enemy, it'll last for 3 minutes. And I was just going to run around, but frankly, there's actually no other items that I want over there, so I'm just going to take a shortcut. So now that we have gotten the few items that's behind the Church of Pilgrimage, let me show you what we're going to be doing today. First, we're going to be traveling south, and we're going to head up this ravine here. Remember, this is where we saw all those large Miranda blooms just outside of the Demi-Human Forest ruins. We're going to hop up here. There's a Trina's Lily, and then I want to take on the mine here. The mine has a lot of upgrade materials that we can use to soon upgrade some of our gear. Then we'll backtrack a little, and we're going to come up this plateau to the Minor Erdtree. There is a boss up here. This is the first Minor Erdtree we've encountered that is guarded. We'll take on the boss here, gather a few items, and then if time allows, and it most likely will, there is a catacomb just over here that we will access as well. But let's not waste any more time. Let's just make our way past these pilgrims as they travel back and forth between the church and another location, which I am not quite sure. So up here, that's going to take us to the Minor Erdtree. We're going to take the lower path, and there is a new enemy type down here that we're also going to see plenty of up by the Minor Erdtree, and these are simply known as Guardians. These Guardians, I'm going to take a look at this one from afar, so hopefully he doesn't aggro. If you get their armor to drop, which it's not too uncommon, and it's a really cool looking set of armor, it does talk about how these enemies are essentially living forever due to a pact that was made. So even in death, they're able to continue this sacred duty of guarding the Minor Erdtrees. But you can also see that they have this vegetative growth that is actually coming off of them, and I would have to imagine that that is due to that pact, whatever it may be. So I'm just going to get my shield out, and I'm going to kill this one just with some guard counters. And they can also drop their unique sword spear. We have another Guardian coming up here that is completely none the wiser, so let's just get a backstab on him if at all possible. There we go. Oh, we did get a drop here. They can also drop tarnished golden sunflowers, though. Hey, but we actually got the sword spear. That is pretty handy. Not necessarily anything remarkable. It requires 17 strength in order to one-hand it, which would be the equivalent of 12 strength in order to two-hand, dexterity of 16, some fairly decent physical damage. It has Spinning Slash as its skill, wielded by guardians of the minor Erdtrees known as experts in the art of combat. The power of this weapon scales greatly with dexterity, and you can see that it does have a C dexterity scaling, which is pretty high, comprising a long handle and broad blade sharpened for the hardwood of old trees. So probably actually formed from old, maybe even dying Erdtrees. There we have it. So this is the bridge that we've seen a few times now. On the other side, there is a demi-human chief if you want to try farming for that bloody dagger. Go right ahead. I don't have a need for it right now, so I'm just going to leave him be. Not too difficult to take on with guard counters. We do have a spring here, and I'm actually going to take the spirit spring. Over here, as I said, a number of these Miranda blooms and these Miranda sprouts. There's a single golden rune one that I'm going to grab, this shiny right here, so let's just grab that. Excuse me, golden rune 2. My apologies, and I'm going to go back up, mostly because I want to land on this ledge right here to get the single Trina's Lily. And then we're going to move on. I'm going to hop down. I'll grab some mushrooms along the way. There's a few man beasts hanging by some of these pillars. If you want to farm them for some reason, you can. They do drop some golden rune level 1. However, I'm just going to beeline right from the mine. And welcome to Morne Tunnel. First thing I'm going to do is send the elevator down because I know of the secret path over here. Nothing in this alcove, but this one does have an item. Right in the back here. There's our first smithing stone level 1 of the mine. Make sure that we jump over here. There we go. Here's the site of grace along with a summoning pool, so we'll grab that here in a moment as well. And in total, as long as you scour all the nooks and crannies, Morne Tunnel, not counting anything that may drop for you as an enemy reward, you can get 8 smithing stones and 3 somber smithing stone level 1s. We also have not just miners to deal with, but we do also have several misbegotten. Here's the first one right here. The best thing that I have found is simply guard counters, especially if they do their leap attack at you, because you can just knock them out of the air. And that's why I chose this shield specifically, due to its high guard counter. Just knock down. There's the critical. And as you approach the ledge here, you can see there is a number of enemies down there. There's a trio of misbegotten. We do have some miners off in the distance. There's actually another misbegotten who is asleep just right there. You can just see him under there. So we want to be careful. If you go in here guns a-blazing, you could find yourself in a lot of trouble very quickly. But we have that slumbering misbegotten right there, and there is another one who travels back and forth in that tunnel. So just be aware of that. What I'm actually going to do is just take this opportunity to jump across and head up this ladder. There's a miner that's working on a smithing stone. Now, we've mentioned this before, but this is a good time to remind you of the hardness system in Elden Ring. These miners have quite a high hardness, meaning if I one-hand a weapon that doesn't meet or exceed their hardness level, like the Great Épée or the Short Sword, I'm simply going to recoil off. If I have a weapon that is of the same hardness or higher, then I won't ricochet off, but also two-handing any weapon will immediately cause it to not ricochet off. Same with jump attacks. So for here, I think I'll actually just go in with a backstab with my Great Épée. Then I will switch to my club. So notice I didn't just ricochet off that because I'm two-handing it. Here's smithing stone level 1. And let's just hop down here. We just don't want to deal with both of the misbegotten, the one that's sleeping and the one that's in that hallway. So, see if we can't be quick about this. There we have it. And he's coming. Okay, I didn't get a guard counter. That's alright. Just wait for it. He actually just went above the shield. That's alright. A little bit of damage. This next room, we're going to have 3 misbegotten that are all unaware on the platform just below us. You have one sleeping here, one there, and one that's alert but looking elsewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put on some bone darts and bring him to us. That way we don't have to contend with more than one at a time. Knock him straight down, get the critical. Now we're just going to make our way down. We're probably going to wake up. Oh, we actually only woke up more than one. That That works. Let's bring him up here. This is the safest play. Okay, we'll heal up after this encounter. Unfortunately, I didn't manage my stamina properly, and that's why he was able to break my guard there. But that is alright. We'll just go ahead and use heal. Now, at this point, it is actually more beneficial for me to simply use my Crimson Flasks because we've gotten a few Sacred Tears, but I still like using heal. It's just something different. So there's Golden Rune level 2. We do have a few areas that we need to explore just in this little room. The way forward is going to be through that tunnel, but let's go ahead and start going around here. Take out some of these miners. And almost kill them in a single charge R2. So there's another smithing stone. There we go. And yet another. We have a few miners in here. Single charge R2 followed by an R1 is perfect, however. Not going to do any looting until all of them are down, however. We don't want to be surprised. There we go. And what did you drop for us? Oh, a smithing stone level 1. Perfect. They can drop a few different items, including glintstone scrap. On this corpse, we have a golden rune level 4, and inside here we have another exalted flesh. Let's make sure we get all the loot, however. So back here, there's this little camp with another miner. Take him out. Large glintstone scrap. Remember, we picked those up in the original mine. And here's our first somber smithing stone level 1 of the mine. And I said we can get 3 of them, so we have 2 more to find. Moving right back along here. We've already gone up that way, so we have 2 more miners in this room. We'll just take them out. Same thing, just charge R2 and R1. On this corpse, stanching boluses, and we have another smithing stone right here. And now we're going to be taking on this main area. What I like to do is the first trio of Misbegotten that's just over to the right, I'm going to take them all out with just a pair of gravity stone fans. It can be really effective. So let's just walk up, get rather close, and just drop 2 nice and quickly. There we go. Got both of them, and then we're going to back up, see if anyone caught wind of us. Doesn't look like just yet. Okay, let's take out this next Misbegotten. There we go, and there is another one. You do have this exploding barrel you can use to kill him. I'm going to be honest, I tend to forget about that. There's one more Misbegotten. It doesn't look like he is onto us just yet, though. So we'll take out some of these miners and get their smithing stones. Okay, it looks like the Misbegotten is now woken up. Knock you down, get the critical. A little bit of strategy really and truly can go a long way. Grab that smithing stone. Here's the second somber. And once again, another exploding barrel. Really good opportunity to explore and exploit the environment. A couple of arteria leaves. And, you know, just to show it off, let's two-hand our short sword. There we go. And what did you drop for us? Oh, another smithing stone. Very fortunate. And here we have our way to the boss, but first, we have one more cave, and every time I've practiced, I've always gone straight towards the boss while forgetting this one, which is down here by that sleeping Misbegotten that we just killed. And it just has a single item. Right over in this corpse, we have some soft cotton. Soft cotton, if you don't remember, this will allow you to have completely silent footsteps, but also it will allow you to fall without taking any fall damage, provided that the fall is survivable. It does not change the height at which you can survive a fall. So there's the boss arena, but first, here's the third and final somber smithing stone. And let's prepare for this boss. Inside here, we're going to have a boss very similar to the enemies we've been fighting. It's a variety of Misbegotten known as a scaly Misbegotten. Now, all the Misbegottens are weakest to 2 damage types: piercing, which is of course what our great ape does really well, and fire. So we can coat this with some fire grease. We could also coat it with some drawstring fire grease, which deals even more damage just for a very short time. We can use things like fire bombs, we can use things like roped fire pots. That can go really well. Unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to do this because I have all my crack pots used. This can actually work really well and deal almost a fifth of his damage every time this connects. You can also use incantations like Catch Flame or the Flame of Frenzy, or you can just bait for backstabs and use guard counter. I'm going to opt for using some drawstring fire grease. It can deal exceptionally quick damage, especially if you use it in conjunction with the repeated thrust. And you know what? I misspoke. I actually do have some rope fire pots, so we'll try and play around with that as well, just so you can see it in action. First, I do want to make sure I am topped off, and you know, I think I'll even... Might be a bit of a waste, but I don't think we'll need that many pots in here, so that should be sufficient. Okay, let's see if we can't get some roped fire pots. So the way that the rope fire pots work is you will actually drop them behind you, so it's really good if an enemy is given chase. The problem is it can be really hard to lock on and use them appropriately. So let's see if we can bait him into an attack. And he has some really slow but powerful swings. And he also advances forward nearly every time he swings, so just be aware of that. Give him some distance, bait a second attack, and then we'll just drop one of these. And we miss somehow. Okay, so this is not working well. Let's get nice and close here. There we go, 283 damage, not too bad. See if I can't get a backstab while this is active. No, we can't. So let's just back up, but look at that damage. And how about some repeating thrust? I'm gonna take some damage, and I'm actually completely okay with that. How about another one? And there we have it. Scaly Misbegotten. It's a fun little fight just to practice a few different techniques on. And we get the Rusted Anchor. This is actually a pretty interesting weapon, just because it has some bit of lore on it that I don't think many people are talking about. A rusty anchor wielded as a weapon. When the Tarnished left the lands between with their lord, one boat alone was said to have been left behind. Why was there only one boat that was left behind? And I've actually had a theory for quite some time now with the upcoming DLC. A lot of people believe that you're going to touch Miquella's hand outside of the cocoon that we see later on. I have an idea that maybe we're actually going to find this single boat and actually take this to the lands that the Tarnished were banished to some time ago. I don't know, it could be interesting. The Rusted Anchor is part of the Great Axe family. It has Barbaric Roar as its innate skill. Every attack on the Rusted Anchor, because of the pointed tips, is going to be piercing, which is really interesting because this is a very high-powered, albeit heavy, piercing weapon. It requires 26 strength in order to one-hand, 18 if you want to two-hand it, with 9 dexterity. But that's it for Morne Tunnel. We're actually going to go back to the Church of Pilgrimage, and now we're going to be taking on the Minor Erdtree area. With it being daytime, we'll hop on Torrent, bypass these pilgrims here, and we are just aiming straight ahead, where we're immediately going to be going into another boss fight. Well, I guess we will detour. We're going to grab that Statue of Roses and kill a couple of Guardians along the way in hopes that we can get some of their armor. If we don't get it to drop, I might farm some of it off camera just so we can include it in some of our quote-unquote builds here. Guide and Gatekeeper for those returning to the roots. This time the Statue of Roses makes a lot of sense. Remember at the very end of the Catacombs, anytime we've been in a boss arena, we have found a tangle of tree roots with corpses strewn throughout. This catacomb just so happens to be directly under this Minor Erdtree. Not only that, but we're going to see some interesting set pieces around that Minor Erdtree that suggest that maybe these trees aren't as holy and sacred as the Golden Order fundamentalists might lead us to believe. You can actually see, if you pay attention, some of the Guardians that actually are in the ground. They just look like some roots sticking out. So let's just take care of them nice and quickly, even while they're still coming out. Okay, that didn't work at all. And let's get out of there because I'm about to make an absolute mess of things. Tell you what, let's back up. Let's have a little fun here. See if we can get them to line up for us. Okay, Okay, some good damage there. Okay, there's one dead. Two dead. Taking some absolute needless damage there. There we have it, with no drops whatsoever. That's alright. Top on Torrent, that was meant to be a lot more smooth as I killed them as they came out of the ground, but the Ape is really not a very good choice in terms of mounted weapons. So as we approach the Minor Erdtree, we have a Stake of Marika, we have a Summoning Pool, we also have the symbol indicating that we can use our Spirit Ashes. And let's take a look at what's happening here. Of course, we have this lovely Minor Erdtree. These pots look very similar to Iron Fist Alexander, the individual that we rescued in Northern Limgrave, and it does seem that something nefarious may be going on. Either the pots themselves are coming to sacrifice themselves at the base of the Erdtree in order to feed it, or they're being brought here against their will to do the exact same. The iron pots, like Alexander, are filled with the remains and spirits of former warriors, and there is something about corpses and meat and flesh being consumed by these trees in order to grow, and it very well looks like, for all intents and purposes, that the Erdtrees are functioning as a very large parasite, which is not terribly uncommon in the plant world. But there we have the Erdtree avatar. Erdtree avatars are going to be found by most of the minor Erdtrees that we find throughout the land. You will find some different varieties, but essentially they're all going to be weakest to strike damage and fire. So I did bring the club along so I can just use those attacks if I need it. However, this is where the Flame of Frenzy can really shine. The plan is I'm going to stay nice and close whenever I can, and then I'm going to charge up the Flame of Frenzy and allow most of the attacks to hit it, and it should only take a few casts in order to take him out. Now there are some guardians along the way out in the peripheral, so what you want to do, unless you want to go clear the entire plateau, is just go straight in to this fight, and that's exactly what I intend to do. So I'm going to get my club out just in case I need it. I'm going to get the Flame of Frenzy ready. Now you can see that I can't actually use it just yet. So the plan here is, as soon as he becomes active, I'm going to use my Flask of Wondrous Physic, and then I'm going to stay close when I can, and I'm going to be charging up this incantation as much as I can. Let's see what kind of damage we get there. Very good, 624. Get one of these off again. And just be wary of some of his incredibly delayed attacks. And the big swing. Now I do have to be careful. There's a knockdown. Get the critical. We don't want our madness meter building too far up, so let's use a Flask of Crimson Tears here. And we're just going to back up while that just depletes a little bit. We could actually go in just with the club while we wait for that to dissipate. Watch out for that big slam, big AoE. Now he also has another attack we haven't seen yet, and I'm hoping that he does it for us soon. Okay, the madness meter's down pretty well. So let's go back to the finger seal. Okay, no follow-up. Watch the slam. You can go right into it. You can actually go through it if you just dodge it. And this is the other attack I was talking about. When he does this, and you see those specks of light in the distance, you just need to make sure that you don't get caught on the environment like I just did, and instead, just roll around it. And there we go, the Erdtree Avatar, done, with Flame of Frenzy, an incantation I technically don't have the stats to use. We get 3,600 runes, but more importantly, we get the Opaline Bubble tier and the Crimson Burst Crystal tier, 2 more tiers for our Flask of Wondrous Physic. The Opaline Heart tier is definitely a fan favorite. It will increase all of your damage negation up to 90% for 3 minutes, or until you get hit. So it does only last for a single hit or 3 minutes, whichever one comes first, but essentially, whatever damage you are going to take, it will be reduced by 90% for that first hit, which is really rather incredible. And then the Crimson Burst Crystal tier, it is healing over time. It will heal you for 7 HP for 3 minutes for a grand total of 1,260 hit points. Now, being that this is a sacred area, you do have a lot of these tarnished golden sunflowers. If you want to get any of those, there is a teardrop scarab in the back that I do want to get because I am lacking on the flasks. Of course, we do have some more guardians, so might just take some of those out just to see if we can get lucky. Let's use this last flask, why not? Now, there are a couple of things to do up here. So the first thing I want to do, well, I want to grab my flask back, so let's do that. Easier said than done. Hop off, hop off. Okay, almost missed it. The Ape, I really do like the weapon, but it can be a little tricky in tight situations. So there we got our 2 Crimson Flasks back. You might hear some singing off in the distance. We're going to go and explore that in a moment, but just to give you an idea of where we're at, we are directly opposite the ravine. We saw from over there, that's where the alien village is, but down below, there's a lightning field, and more importantly, there is a teardrop scarab down there that has an incantation. We're going to be doing that in a bit, but first, let's head over to the west. There's a couple of things we need to do over here first. We have a small field here with some demi-humans, and it is another smoldering field, so you can grab some smoldering butterflies. I will simply just grab those. Not necessarily too worried about the demi-humans. But then over here, we want to take a look over the edge because there's a particular item that mentions something that actually the ghost in front of the church has already mentioned. But of course, there's a Trina's lily, so I have to head all the way to this northern corner. There it is. Got turned around, go in the corner, and you have an item right above Torrent's head. We do want to grab that, so we're going to grab that right now. We just want to go by this broken pillar, and this item, along with that church, the ghost in front of it rather, is going to be referencing that monstrosity right there. Carefully hop down. Some more land octopus. I don't know why they like to hang out on these ledges, but they sure do. And there's the shiny. A little bit of fall damage. I could have used some soft cotton to avoid that, but here we have the Eclipse Crest Heater Shield, another heater shield for us. The sun in eclipse is said to be the symbol of the wandering mausoleum where the soulless demigods slumber. Remember, the ghost outside of the Church of Pilgrimage had mentioned the very same thing, and that is the wandering mausoleum. Now, it might not be wandering just yet, but as we approach it, and I am going to just use Torrent here to carefully hop down and hopefully not die in the process, just use the double jump to slow my descent. We're going to grab this Site of Grace, and as we do so, we should start to hear a bell tolling. That is the Wandering Mausoleum. There's a few of these scattered throughout the lands between, and they do indeed house soulless demigods. How do we access it? Well, we'll do that next time. I'm not going to focus on it just yet, but for now, just pay attention to the bottoms of their feet and what look to be crust or barnacles. There's actually a nomadic merchant in the shed just through the legs that you can see there, and they sell a note that talks about how you can access it. But we're going to have to do that loop again because there's more to be done up on that plateau. So back to the Church of Pilgrimage, and I'll see you back on the plateau. So heading back around the Erdtree here, heading kind of towards where that man-beast is, and really right towards where that singing is taking place. So we're going to head up over these rocks, and we're going to park ourselves just on the other side. We're going to get a little bit closer. First, I want to take out this man-beast, and I do like to just knock them off of their perch with a bone dart. Singing is coming from that creature right there. That creature is known as a chanting winged dame, and apparently they are singing actual lyrics, albeit in Latin, and it has been translated as, "Alas, that land once blessed now has diminished. We, destined to be mothers, now become tarnished. We have lamented and we have shed tears, but no one consoles us. Golden One, at whom were you angry?" These creatures, these winged dames, There's only a few spots that you can find them in, but they will always drop 100% of the time golden runes. This one in particular will always drop a golden rune level 6, which is worth 2,000 runes. Now this isn't exactly right next to a site of grace, but to run here from the Church of Pilgrimage doesn't take very long, and at 2,000 runes a pop, this is actually not a terrible place to build up at least a few thousand runes for perhaps a level up. So my goal is simply going to be run in there with the short sword and use gravitas. And I think just for fun, and this might get me killed, I'm actually going to use Flame of Frenzy again. So I'm going to use my Flask of Wonders Physic. And we're going to charge in there, immediately get off gravitas, and then charge up the Flame of Frenzy. And as I said, probably not going to work at all. Okay, we hit one. Will we hit him up in the air? A little. Not great. Let's bring him down again. This is me just trying to have a little fun. There we have it. There is another man beast flitting around up there, but I think we're safe. We are poisoned, however, so let's make sure we use a neutralizing bolus. There is our golden rune level 6, again guaranteed drop, and a sliver of meat. So if you aren't looking for the runes and you don't need sliver of meat, which face it, many of us don't, you can just ignore that area altogether. But it is a really fascinating area, especially with that dame. Next, we're finally going to drop down and go to that lightning field where that teardrop scarab is. And since I did lose a single flash there, might as well get it back with this teardrop scarab. Definitely should have used the AP for that. There we go. We are going to have several of those man beasts down below, those bats. So let's get ready for that. We just want to carefully find the steps here and start hopping down. I actually find that sometimes this is easier on foot. We're going to hop off because we want to get ready for these. Gravitas as soon as we can. And anything that can deal an AoE is going to do you a lot of good here. Okay, shield up. Back up because I don't want to die here. Knock you into the air. Okay, takes a little bit of extra damage from this other one. Then there's still more. You can see them. But we do have some bone darts we can use as well. Let's actually get ready for that. Tell you what, to make this a little easier, let's get these fire bombs going. Go. Fire bombs. I was hoping for splash damage. There we go. We still have more across the way. I think I will just run over there before we go after that teardrop. Alright, there we go. And now, finally, can go after the scarab. We can first miss, have him get hit by lightning, all part of the plan. And he drops for us the Lightning Strike incantation. One of the incantations of the capital's ancient dragon cult. So now we've heard about incantations from those who serve the 2 fingers, those who serve the 3 fingers, and now there's actually a dragon cult. Ancestors of the modern dragons, the ancient dragons had scales of gravelstone and wielded lightning as their weapon. It is said that once they attacked Leyndell, the royal capital. This has a pretty high faith requirement of 28, and it does cost 19 FP in order to use. And the way this incantation works is that you will summon down a lightning bolt, but it's not just a single point of impact. There will be arcs of lightning that travel in various directions away from that point of impact. So it is a bit of an AoE. It is a bit of an AoE incantation. And just because we're here, even though there's a much easier and safer place to farm, I'm just going to grab all these Fulgur Blooms before we warp back out to the Church of Pilgrimage. Now directly below us here, you can see from the map, that is where Morne Tunnel is. There are a couple of spots that if you are very careful, you can survive this fall. Use rainbow stones if you are really desperate to get down there, but I have tried and I have not been able to master exactly where it is, so frankly, I just recommend taking the long way. We do have a little bit of time on our side, so we're now going to take on that catacomb, the one that statue of roses is pointing to. So let's go straight that way. We'll just beeline towards it. This catacomb is known as the Tombsward Catacombs. In fact, many of the areas in this zone are actually going to be named after Tombsward. But there is going to be an imp's door inside, so if you don't have a stone sword key, you will be missing out just ever so slightly. It's actually a really nice cookbook that we can get as long as we have a single stone sword key. So I'm going to be touching the grace here. Now I do want to use Golden Blade on my club for at least a good bit of this, because this is going to allow me to kill these skeletons that are in here without worrying about them respawning. But right away, here is that imp's door. I just scared myself by breaking a bone. And I'm going to... Oh, of course, we have to worry about that menu popping up. Just 2 hits with the R1 is enough. That was impressive how many times I just missed it. Oh, what did you drop? Human bone shard? Nope, mushroom. But over here we have the Nomadic Warrior's Cookbook. This is going to allow us to craft a single item, but this item is actually really, really useful. And that is going to be the Rancor Pot. In times of old, the dead were burned with ghost flame, and from those cinders arose vengeful spirits. These pots are crafted with only gray violet and human bone shards, so pretty much anytime you're either in graveyards or catacombs, you can be farming for these. It will cost 5 FP in order to cast, because when you throw it, it's going to summon Death Hex to chase down your enemies. Really, really fun. So I'm going to craft a few of those. We'll actually maybe try it against the boss here, although the boss in this area moves around a lot, so it can be really hard to hit. And as soon as I get down to the bottom, as soon as I know rather that I'm going to be fighting more skeletons, I'm going to cast this incantation again, just so it lasts a little longer. Human bone shard, perfect. That's what I'm hoping for. Get some grave glovewort. And we just keep moving. Got a few enemies spawning right here. You gonna stab me with an arrow? Oh, you're just not gonna move. Okay, makes things even easier. There is a ghost glovewort. And another grave glovewort. So let's take this path over to the left here. Incantation is still going. Such quick kills with this incantation. So here we have another one of those flame pillars. Whoop. And another skeleton that I forgot to take care of. Another human bone shard. And I believe the bone darts are actually going to be just a little bit too far. So one thing I want to show off, I'm actually not going to use a bow to send this down. Instead, what I want to show you is, instead of looking visually for when the flames die out, listen to the sound. As soon as the sound starts to dissipate, it is safe to start running. And the reason I say that is because visually, it actually looks like the flames last a little bit longer than they do. So let's just rush in there, get around, we'll knock this down so it's not a problem anymore. Take care of the skeleton that just foolishly right in front of the flame pillar. Here we have 5 human bone shards. And we're going to take this path over here. I'm going to use my Order's Blade again. In the back of the room, grab this Grave Glovewort level 2. We have a big ambush here. There we go. Get your guard up, and if you're using Order's Blade, you can take them out very, very quickly. Grab another human bone shard. Prattling Pate, thank you. That is our next talking stone that we've seen a couple of others before. You might think, well, how do I get to the next area? Well, we have seen this before, and the way forward is going to be up on this flame pillar. So what I like to do is make sure that I get hit at least once and then jump on the pillar. As long as you're standing close to it when you jump, you can then roll off and maybe even into the flame. And by that I mean make sure you're guarding, jump over. You can use guard counter even against those fire bombs. Golden Rune level 2, and we're nearly at the end where we're going to find the lever to open up that heavy door. And yes, I realized I did just say lever instead of lever, and I'm not sure what's wrong with me. I may be coming down to something. We have a couple other surprises coming from behind. Grape Levelwort level 2. There we have it. Here is the way forward. You can see the lever just ahead, and some more Great Violet, which is good because we have the ability to craft those rancor pots. And somewhere, a heavy door is open. So let's make our way back there. I am going to go back to the site of grace and rest up. That way I go in with full heals, full flasks, and we can try and have some fun with the boss of this catacomb. There's the heavy door. Nothing in between us and that door, which is nice. Just a little bit of a run. And let's make our way to the boss. And this time, it's a brand new enemy type. This is going to be a Cemetery Shade. And the Cemetery Shade, fortunately for us, is weak to Holy. So, I'm going to use the Épée with Order's Blade, but I'm also going to be trying the Rancor Pot. Now, no, this isn't Holy damage, but it's kind of fun. And if it hits with all of the floating skulls, it can deal massive damage. So what you can do is actually throw it, it'll start to home in, and then get up close to the enemy to keep it occupied, and maybe just get your guard up. The one thing to keep in mind is that the Cemetery Shade can bleed you and bleed you fast. Probably fast enough you're not going to have time to use a stanching bolus, so you may want to take a look at your armor to see what's going to best protect you against your bleed buildup. And just to kind of remind you of that, if you take a look at the resistances on the right hand side, it'll actually tell you which ones are going to help you against certain status effects. For example, robustness is going to be your hemorrhage or your blood loss status effect resistance. So boost your robustness and you should get some better bleed buildup opportunities. So for example, the bandit mask is only 14. I can go all the way up to 23, but fashion is everything. So let's prepare for this fight. I'm going to Order's Blade. I'm going to get my shield back out, get my Rancor Pots at the ready. There is the Cemetery Shade that unfortunately can just disappear. Look at that damage. I'm going to back up, I'm going to throw another one, and nearly got him with that. I should heal up though. Let's try and get nice and close because we should be able to kill him very quickly with the Great Épée. There's the big combo. Had him with that. Let's just charge in with an R1. There we go, Cemetery Shade. Not too bad at all. Rancor Pot is a lot of fun. But we get Lutul the Headless. This is a new type of Spirit Ash for us. Lutul sacrificed her life so that in death she could continue to protect a soulless demigod until the revival, earning her the hero's honor of Erdtree burial, which makes sense that she is in a catacomb directly beneath a minor Erdtree. But notice at the very top, this is a legendary Ashen Remain. In Elden Ring, there are 6 legendary ashes in total, and you need all 6 in order to get that trophy or that achievement. So we have 5 more remaining at this time. She does take 104 FP in order to cast, but she can be incredibly tanky, and in the right circumstances, she can also deal quite a bit of damage herself. Grab some root resin, but you can see just all these corpses intermingled with the roots right at the base of this minor Erd tree. Well, let's head back to the Church of Pilgrimage, where we are going to call it a part there. Next time, we will be taking on this entire zone right here. There are ruins, there are caves, there's a merchant, there's also a tower with another trapped chest that's going to take us somewhere rather interesting, but all that is going to have to wait until the next episode. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you learned something, and if you did, let me know down below what you learned, and if I missed something, or if you have better strategy for, well, let's see, the Scaly Misbegotten, the Erd Tree Avatar, or the Cemetery Shade, let me know that too so we can all keep learning. But I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.